The world does not end here. It gently folds in upon itself. The last ribbon of asphalt, still warm from a sun that vanished hours ago, simply ceases, its ragged edge meeting a sea of smooth, dark earth as seamlessly as a river meets the ocean. There is no signpost, no archway, not even a change in the street lamps, for there are no street lamps. One moment you are in the realm of the modern, with its whispered promises of connectivity and speed, its faint electronic hum embedded in the very air. The next you are not. The hum vanishes, swallowed so completely, its absence becomes a sound in itself, a profound, ringing quiet that settles in your ears like clear water. You stand on the border, one foot on the cool, unyielding asphalt, the other hovering over the village path. The transition is not a step, but a surrender. You lower your foot. The earth, meticulously packed by a millennium of quiet comings and goings, accepts your weight without complaint. It gives slightly a firm yet gentle resilience that feels alive under your soul. There is no crunch of gravel, only the softest shush of displaced soil, a sound so intimate it seems to exist only for you. This is the first note in the village's nocturnal symphony, the sound of arrival. You are here. The path ahead is a pale ribbon in the starlight, winding between two low stone walls that seem to grow from the ground rather than be placed upon it. The air is the first to truly welcome you. It is cooler by several degrees, carrying a complex layered fragrance that tells the history of this place in scent. The most immediate note is petrichor, the clean, mineral smell of rain on dry earth, though it has not rained for days. It is the memory of water held in the soil. Beneath that, the sweet, dry perfume of rice straw, stacked somewhere out of sight, and the crisp, medicinal aroma of hinoki cypress. From the countless wooden beams and fences, a scent that speaks of mountain forests and careful craftsmanship. And threading through it all, the damp, green breath of moss and the faint, cool exhalation of the water that flows, unseen, through stone channels beneath your feet. You begin to walk. The path is not straight. It meanders with a gentle, purposeful indifference to efficiency, following the ancient logic of the land of property lines established centuries before maps existed. It feels less like a constructed road and more like a natural groove worn into the earth by the slow, patient passage of time itself. To your right, the stone wall is shoulder-high, its top capped with Kawara tiles, their curves softened by a velvet coat of moss. Beyond it, the silhouette of a house, a steep, thatched roof soaring into the darkness, its lines pure and graceful. Not a single square of yellow light breaks its dark facade. It sleeps deeply, a slumber so complete it feels contagious. As you move, the silence begins to unravel, not into noise, but into its constituent parts. The first layer to emerge is the insect chorus. It comes not from one direction, but from the very earth and air around you. It is a vast, shimmering tapestry of sound. The highest register is a continuous metallic shimmer, a billion tiny crickets rubbing their wings together in the grass, a sound like stars whispering. Below that, a slower, deeper pulse, the resonant boom, boom, boom of giant beetles in the old pine trees, a sound felt in the chest more than heard, and punctuating it, the occasional solitary chirp from a creature close to the path, a clear, bell-like note that seems to mark your progress. This is not the frantic, chaotic chirping of a summer evening elsewhere. It is a rhythmic, almost meditative drone, a natural white noise that has blanketed this valley every night for 10,000 years. It does not disturb the silence. It defines it. You pass the great pine. It is a monument, its trunk wider than you are tall, its bark a landscape of deep fissures and swirling patterns. You stop and press your palm against it. The bark is rough and dry, yet it radiates a quiet, ancient vitality. From high in its branches, hidden in the darkness, comes a soft flutter, then a low, guttural kurr. Kurr, a bird, perhaps a brown-eared bulbul, murmuring in its sleep. The sound is tender, private. You move on. Now the houses draw closer to the path, their wooden siding aged to a silvery gray that seems to absorb the starlight. Their windows are sealed with heavy wooden amadu shutters latched from within. Their entrances are recessed, sheltered by small, tile-roofed jenkin. As you pass one, you hear a sound so faint and domestic it tugs at your heart. From behind the paper shoshi screens, muffled by wood and wall, comes the soft, rhythmic scratch. Scratch, scratch of a broom on tatami matting. It is the sound of final tiding, of a day being swept into memory. It continues for a half-minute, then stops. A moment of perfect stillness follows. Then the gentle wooden shoosh click of a latch being secured, of a screen being slid fully into its groove. The house has sealed itself away from the night. The sound is one of profound safety, of a world being made small, secure, and private. The path begins a gentle, sloping descent. Your ears pop softly. And now the sound that has been the secret foundation of all others rises to meet you. Water. It is the voice of the village's lifeblood. You hear it before you see it, a soft, liquid gurgle, 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 constant and unhurried. You step to the left where the stone wall gives way to a low stone embankment. Below, gleaming dully in the weak light, is the suidu, the water channel. It is a narrow canal of perfectly fitted stone, perhaps 2 feet wide, carrying a swift, shallow stream of pure mountain water. The sound is not a roar, but a cheerful conversational babble, as the water trips over minor imperfections in the stone bed. You kneel, though you cannot see the water's surface clearly. You dip your fingers. The cold is shocking, immediate, and clean. It smells of nothing but stone and distance. This water has traveled from a spring deep in the hills, through bamboo pipes and stone aqueducts, to arrive here, singing this quiet song, providing for every home it passes. Its sound is the village's steady, unchanging heartbeat. A breeze, the first real movement of air you've felt, slips down the path. It is cool and carries a new, faint scent, the delicate, honeyed fragrance of Mikan oranges from a small orchard on the hillside. The breeze rustles the leaves of a large persimmon tree hanging over a garden wall. The sound is a dry, papery shiffle, 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 like pages of a thin book being slowly turned. The leaves are just beginning to turn. A few have already fallen, and your next step crunches one underfoot with a soft, crispy snap. The sound is startlingly loud in the ambient quiet, a brief, solitary punctuation mark. You walk on, the water's gurgle now a companion on your left. The path widens slightly into a small clearing. Here stands a stone lantern, an ishidoro, its simple, squared-off silhouette a sentinel of stillness. It is unlit, a silent witness to the night. Next to it is a stone water basin, a chozubachi, full to the brim with black, still water from a bamboo pipe that drips once every 10 seconds, a single perfect plank into the basin. The sound is deep, clear, and resonant, each drop creating concentric rings that disturb the reflected stars for a moment before the water grows still again. This is a place for pause, for cleansing, for transition. You are at a quiet crossroads. 3 paths diverge from here. One climbs steeply toward the darker shadow of the hilltop shrine. One continues straight, diving deeper into the clustered heart of the village. One follows the water channel toward the moonlit expanse of the rice paddies. You do not choose yet. You simply stand in the clearing. The insect chorus surrounds you. The water gurgles and drips. The distant persimmon leaves shuffle in a renewed breeze. From far, far away, from the direction of the paddies, comes the lonely 3-note call of a bird you cannot name. Hoo, hoo, mournful, beautiful sound that hangs in the air and fades. You breathe in. The cool, scented air fills your lungs, feels cleaner, lighter than any air you've breathed before. You breathe out, and with the exhalation, something loosens within you. A tension you didn't know you were carrying in your shoulders, your jaw, the space behind your eyes begins to dissolve. It is not forced out. It is gently washed away by the quiet, by the rhythm, by the sheer, unassuming peace of this place. The village does not perform for you. It does not announce its history or its charms. It simply exists, asleep and dreaming its ancient dreams. In its presence, the frantic narrative of your own mind, the to-do lists, the worries, the fragments of songs and conversations, begins to slow, to fragment, to lose its urgency. The steady, predictable sounds of the night become a gentle loom, weaving your scattered thoughts into a calm, seamless fabric of nothing in particular. You have not just walked into a village. You have stepped into a different relationship with time itself. Here, time is not a river to be navigated, but a pool to be immersed in, deep, still, and cool. You are, for the first time in perhaps years, truly and completely here, not planning the next moment, nor reviewing the last. Simply present in the scent of cypress and wet earth and the sound of water and insects, in the feeling of smooth, cool soil under your feet, and in the vast, kindly darkness of a quiet night in an old Japanese village. The crossroads holds you in its gentle equilibrium for a long moment, the 3 paths lying before you like options in a dream. The choice is made not by conscious thought, but by a soft, visual pull. From the path that leads deeper into the village's heart, a faint, warm glow emanates, not from a single source, but scattered like fallen amber stars along the way. You are drawn toward this light, not the harsh, white glare of modernity, but the gentle, breathing luminescence of old lanterns. You turn onto the central path, leaving the stone basin and its rhythmic plink behind you. The packed earth here is even smoother, warmed to a sheen by countless nightly strolls, just like this one. As you walk, the first lantern appears. It is an andon, a simple wooden frame wrapped in handmade washi paper, suspended from the eaves of a small, standalone gate that marks the entrance to a family compound. The lantern is not bright. Its flame, fed by a small cup of rapeseed oil, is a living thing. It flickers, it breathes, it dances. The light it casts is a soft, pulsating pool of gold that spills onto the path below, illuminating the texture of the earth, a few blades of grass, and the lower stones of the gatepost. The paper glows from within, showing the delicate, fibrous texture of the mulberry bark from which it was made. The lantern sways almost imperceptibly in the night air, and with each tiny movement, the pool of light on the ground expands and contracts, as if the earth itself is breathing in sync with the flame. You pause beneath it. The warmth is negligible, but the feeling is profound. This is not illumination for safety or utility. It is light as welcome, as a quiet announcement of habitation, a humble, "We are here," whispered to the night. You move on. The next lantern is different. It is a stone tur, a low pedestal lantern standing sentinel beside a short flight of stone steps that lead up to a home's entrance. Its design is simple, hexagonal, with small open windows carved into its stone sides. The candle within is thicker, its flame steadier, casting sharp, geometric shadows through the openings that slowly pirouette on the stone steps as the flame gently shifts. The light from this lantern is cooler, whiter than the Andens gold, and it smells faintly of beeswax and hot stone, a clean, ancient smell. A moth drawn from the darkness circles the lantern's crown in a silent, desperate orbit, its tiny body casting a frantic, oversized shadow on the path behind it. The further you go, the more lanterns you encounter, each with its own character. Some are enclosed in boxes of wood and glass, their light steady and contained, marking the entrance to a small shop whose Norn curtain is drawn for the night. Others are simple paper spheres hung from bamboo poles, guiding the way to a side alley. Their collective effect is transformative. The village, which from the crossroads was a landscape of pure silhouette and shadow, is now revealed in gentle, partial detail. The lantern light defines without exposing. It highlights the grain of a wooden post, the curve of a tile roof, the moss on a stone wall, but leaves the depths of doorways and the spaces between houses in profound protective darkness. The world is no longer black and gray, but a tapestry of deep blues, warm ambers, and velvety blacks. The soundscape changes subtly alongside the light. The omnipresent insect chorus is still there, but now, as you pass close to the wooden houses, you hear new domestic sounds woven into the night's fabric. From behind one paper screen window, soft by distance and barrier, comes the faint, rhythmic click-clack. Click-clack of wooden tiles being sorted, a game of mahjong, or perhaps just the soothing, solitary sound of someone arranging pieces. It is a sound of quiet concentration, not of play. Further on, from a home with a slightly open amadu shutter, a thin silver thread of sound escapes, the slow, mournful melody of a shakuhachi flute. The notes are few, spaced far apart, each one held until it dissipates into the night like smoke. It is not a song, but a meditation in sound, a breath given musical form. It speaks of loneliness, but a loneliness that is cherished, contemplative, and deeply peaceful. The air itself seems to carry the lantern's warmth, though it is only an illusion. The scents become more specific, tied to the homes they guard. As you pass one compound, the smell of roasting green tea, hojicha, wafts over the wall, a nutty, comforting, smoky aroma that speaks of an evening cup enjoyed in quiet solitude. From another, the scent of incense, perhaps sandalwood, a thin, spiritual fragrance meant to purify and calm a room before sleep. You come to a small bridge, a humble structure of two wide, flat stones spanning the ever-present water channel. At each corner of the bridge stands a small iron lantern with pierced metal sides, shaped like pagodas. Their candles are short, burning low, and the light they cast is a dappled pattern of dots and dashes on the worn stone of the bridge and the rushing water below. You stop in the center of the bridge. Looking down, you see the lantern light dancing on the water's surface, fractured into 1,000 shimmering pieces that rush away downstream, carrying the light deep into the village's unseen corners. The sound of the water here is louder, a cheerful babble as it constricts to pass under the bridge. It is the loudest sound you've heard since entering, and yet it is still only a whisper against the immense quiet. Looking up the path ahead, you see the lanterns receding into the distance, a winding chain of gentle fires guiding the way. They are not in a straight line. They follow the path's meandering logic, disappearing behind a house, then reappearing further on, creating a sense of endless, peaceful progression. They mark the presence of life without imposing upon it. No two flames flicker in unison. Each has its own rhythm, its own life. Together, they create a visual lullaby, a slow, pulsing heartbeat of light that seems to sync with your own slowing pulse. A soft breeze, channeled by the narrow path, flows past you. It makes the flames in the paper lanterns dip and sway more vigorously. The pools of light on the ground become animate, flowing like liquid gold over stones and roots. The breeze carries a new sound to you. From the very end of the visible path, where the lanterns seem to cluster, comes the faint wooden clack-clack of a wind chime, a furin. It is not the high, tinny ring of metal, but the low, resonant knock of hollow bamboo tubes touching one another. The sound is spaced by the irregular gusts of wind, a lazy, natural percussion. Clack, pause, clack, clack, long pause, clack. You realize you have been standing on the bridge for a long time, mesmerized by the play of light on water and the tranquil procession of lanterns. The urgency to move, to explore, has left you completely. You are content to be a stationary observer in this flowing, silent celebration of soft light. The lanterns do not lead to a destination. They are the destination. Their purpose is not to show you the way out, but to illuminate the beauty of the way itself, here, now, in this single, stretched-out moment of night. They teach a simple, profound lesson, that darkness is not something to be defeated by blinding light, but a canvas upon which small, brave, gentle flames can paint a masterpiece of peace and safety. You take a final deep breath, the air now a mixture of water scent, extinguished candle wick, cold stone, and distant tea, and step off the bridge, continuing your slow walk down the lane of quiet, flickering, golden light. The procession of lanterns gradually thins, their warm, flickering glow receding like the final, gentle notes of a song. The path you now follow is darker, narrower, and intimately lined with the silent, sleeping forms of the village's wooden homes. The lanterns have been your guides, your companions in the open night. But here, in this deeper residential lane, the houses themselves become the experience. They are no longer distant silhouettes or facades lit by external light. They are immense quiet presences. You can almost touch their long day's heat, slowly bleeding into the cool air, their very wood seeming to breathe a history of sleep. The first house on your right sits so close to the path that the wide eaves of its roof cast the stone walkway into deep shadow. You slow your steps to a near standstill. The wall is made of vertical wooden planks, their surfaces silvery gray and textured by a century of weather. In the faint, ambient light from a distant lantern behind you, you can see the beautiful, undulating grain of the wood swirls, knots and lines that tell the story of the tree's life. You reach out and let your fingertips brush the surface. It is not smooth like finished furniture. It is slightly rough, dusty with the fine pollen of the day, and cool. So very cool. It smells profoundly of wood, of aged cedar and cypress, a dry, clean, slightly sweet scent that is the very essence of shelter. You look up. The roof is thatched, not with the perfect geometric precision of a museum piece, but with the thick, organic layers of Kaya reed, now dark with age and dampness. Its edge is a soft, ragged line against the slightly lighter sky. From this close you can see individual stalks, hear the minute, almost imperceptible, ticking sounds as they contract in the cooling night. A small paper-covered window is set into the wall, its shoshi screen a pale, opaque rectangle. Behind it there is no light, no movement, only a deep, absolute stillness. But as you stand there, listening with your whole body, you hear the house itself. It begins with a sound so low it is more a feeling than a noise, a deep, resonant groan. It comes from the massive central beam, the Daikokyu Bashira, as it settles under its own immense weight, shifting a millimeter in its ancient joinery. The sound is not one of weakness, but of immense, patient strength adjusting to the night's temperature. It is followed a moment later by a sharper, higher creak from a floorboard inside, a sound like a sigh of relief after a long day of bearing footsteps. Then a delicate, crystalline tink as a piece of old, dried clay mortar dislodges from between stones in the foundation and falls into the gravel below. You step back slightly to take in the whole structure. The house is asymmetrical, organic. It does not fight the land, but embraces it, its angles slightly off perfect, its lines softened by time. The main entrance is a sliding wooden door, its surface worn smooth around the iron pull ring. It is secured by a simple wooden latch. You notice the details, the way the rain gutter, a hollowed-out bamboo pole, dips slightly in the middle, the perfect geometry of the woven bamboo rain chine, kusaridoi, hanging silent and dry, the faint green line of moss tracing the joint between the stone foundation and the wooden wall, a living seam connecting earth and home. Moving down the lane, each house reveals its own character through sound and subtle detail. The next home has a small enclosed veranda, an engawa, running along its front. The wooden planks of the engawa are dark and smooth. As you gaze at them, a soft tap, tap, tap echoes from within the house. It is the sound of a wooden geta-clog set down carefully on a floor, one after the other, by someone moving slowly in the darkness. Tap, right foot. Pause. Tap, left foot. The steps are slow, heavy with tiredness or age, and they fade as the person moves deeper into the private heart of the home, away from the outer walls. From a house set slightly back from the path, behind a miniature bamboo grove, comes a different symphony of wood. The night breeze, which has been gentle, finds this grove and sets the bamboo stalks whispering. They rub against each other with a dry, papery shaka 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 sound. But as the wind filters through the grove and presses against the house, it causes the wooden sliding doors to vibrate softly in their tracks. The sound is a low, humming buzz, almost like the distant string of a bass being plucked. It is a resonant, living sound, the house humming in its sleep. You come to a junction where the path widens into a small dirt patch before 3 homes. In the center of this patch stands an old, gnarled plum tree, its branches twisted like arthritis. Here, the sounds of the houses converge. From the left house, a soft, rhythmic scratching, perhaps a pet dog turning in its sleep on a wooden floor. From the right, a sudden, sharp crack. That makes you start. It is followed by a series of softer, settling pops. It is not alarming. It is the sound of the house's timber frame, releasing the day's stored tension, a natural, woody exhalation. From the house directly ahead, the softest sound of all, the steady, slow, deep rhythm of human snoring, muffled by walls and distance, but unmistakable in its cadence of utter, unconscious peace. Za, ha, za, ha. It is a sound so vulnerable and trusting it encapsulates the entire village's feeling of safety. You stand under the plum tree, surrounded on three sides by these sleeping wooden giants. The air is rich with their combined scent-aged wood, the faint, fermented smell of the tatami mats inside, the damp earth of their gardens. You look at their roofs, their walls, their silent windows. These are not mere buildings, they are vessels. For generations they have held families, their joys, their sorrows, their daily routines, and their nightly rest. The wood has absorbed it all, the laughter around a hearth, the quiet tears, the murmured stories, the silent prayers. And now, in the deepest hour of the night, they release not the stories themselves, but the calm that remains after the stories have been told, a calm that seeps into the very air. The final house on the lane is the smallest, its walls slightly bowed with age. As you pass it, your shoulder brushes against a wooden rain shutter left slightly ajar. It moves just an inch, but the sound it makes is the defining sound of this entire journey through the wooden homes. A long, low, melancholic, and deeply peaceful groan. It is the sound of wood on wood, of friction and patience, of something being moved after a long stillness. It is not a screech, it is a voice. The voice of the house, speaking in a language older than words, saying simply, I am here. I am old. I am at rest. The sound echoes softly down the narrow lane before being absorbed by the night. You have walked the length of the residential lane. Ahead, the path opens up again, promising other night-time vistas. But you pause and look back. The houses are dark, silent, monolithic in their peace. You cannot see the life inside, but you can feel it, the slow breath of sleepers, the settling of bones, both wooden and human, the gentle release of the day's warmth. The wooden homes at night are not inert structures. They are sleeping guardians, their quiet creaks and groans a lullaby for the village, a constant reassuring reminder that in this world of fleeting moments, some things endure, age gracefully, and offer, in their silent, sturdy, wooden way, an eternal, uncheckable peace. The lane of wooden houses ends not at another path, but at a simple, waist-high bamboo fence, its stalks tied together with fraying straw rope. A small, hinged gate stands ajar, inviting without demanding. Peering through the opening, you see not another public way, but a private world. A family courtyard, a nakaniwa. This is the hidden heart of a home, an open-air room between wings of the house, a secret square of earth and stone open to the sky. The public path was for passage. This space is for being. You push the gate gently. It swings inward with a soft, dry creak of bamboo on bamboo, a sound that feels like a whispered permission to enter. You step inside and let the gate fall closed behind you. The change is immediate and profound. The insect chorus from the open path is muted here, softened by the surrounding wooden walls of the house that forms a U shape around three sides of the courtyard. The air is stiller, cooler, and holds a more intimate bouquet of scents. The dominant smell is wet earth and stone, but it is layered with the perfume of specific plants, the sharp, clean fragrance of rosemary from a terracotta pot by the doorstep, the sweet, heavy scent of night-blooming jasmine climbing a trellis, and the unmistakable, pungent aroma of shiso leaves from the herb patch in the corner. The courtyard is small, perhaps 10 feet square. The ground is a mosaic of smooth, dark river stones, raked into gentle, swirling patterns around larger, moss-covered stepping stones that lead to the home's en-de-bois veranda. In the center sits a stone water basin, a sukubai, its surface black and still. A bamboo shishiodoshi, a deer scarer, is set up beside it, but its mechanism is still, the ladle empty. Tonight it will not clack. Silence is the only guest. You stand still, allowing the private soundscape of this family space to unveil itself. The first sound is water, but not the cheerful gurgle of the main channel. Here it is the slow, patient drip. Drip, drip from a small bamboo pipe that feeds the basin. Each drop falls from a height of perhaps 2 feet, striking the water's surface with a clear, lonely plunk that seems amplified by the stone enclosure of the courtyard. The rhythm is slow, maybe 1 drop every 5 seconds. It is the sound of time passing in the most gentle, measured way possible. From the deep shadows of the Engawa veranda, under the house's wide eaves, comes another sound, a soft fabric against wood shuff-shuff. You peer into the gloom. There, just visible, is a low wooden stool, and on it a woven basket half full of green beans, a forgotten task from the evening. As the night air cools, the basket's woven strands contract infinitesimally, creating that tiny, shifting sound. Next to it, a pair of gardening shears lie on a folded cloth, their metal cooling and contracting with an almost inaudible tink. You take a step forward onto the first stepping stone. It is firm and cold under your foot. The river stones around it shift with a soft, multi-voiced crunch grind, a sound like walking on dry cereal. It is a satisfying, granular sound that speaks of order and care. You follow the stones to the center, to the water basin. Up close, you see the water is not perfectly still. The falling drops create ever-widening, concentric rings that distort the reflection of a single bright star directly overhead. You lean over and dip your fingers into the water. The cold is shocking, purifying. You lift your hand, and water droplets fall from your fingertips back into the basin with a series of lighter, higher-pitched plink-plink-plinks, a temporary disruption of the slow solo drip. From the far side of the courtyard, where the kitchen wing of the house extends, comes a new set of sounds. A soft metallic clink, then a pause, then another clink. It is the sound of a cast-iron pot or a ceramic lid settling on a clay countertop as it cools from the evening's meal. The sound is domestic, final. The cooking is done, the pot is put away, its residual heat sighing into the night kitchen. A moment later, a wooden screen door inside that wing, heavy and ill-fitting, is pushed shut by a draft. It closes with a soft but solid thud bump, followed by the rattle of its latch. The sound is one of closure, of the day's work being physically sealed away. You turn your attention to the house itself. The paper shoshi screens facing the courtyard are all closed, but one, on the upper floor, has a small, square window of clear glass within it. Through this window, a faint, warm, yellow light bleeds out, not the blue-white of a smartphone or television, but the rich, organic glow of a low-wattage bulb, or perhaps an old oil lamp. It is the only artificial light in the courtyard, and it feels ancient, cozy, and deeply private. As you watch, a shadow passes across the light from within someone moving slowly in a room. The shadow pauses, then moves on. There is no accompanying sound. It is a silent pantomime of nocturnal life, a reminder that you are a guest in this family's night. A gentle breeze, funneled into the courtyard by the architecture, stirs. It first rustles the leaves of a small potted maple tree, a sound like dry hands rubbing together. Then it finds a wind chime hanging from a corner eave, not the bamboo furon, but one made of thin, colored glass. The breeze is too faint to ring it properly, but it sets the glass tubes touching with a series of delicate, random tink-tink. Tink sounds like fairy glassware. The breeze then carries across the stone basin, rippling the water's surface and momentarily altering the sound of the dripping bamboo pipe, making it sputter for a second before returning to its regular plonk. You find a low, flat stone meant for sitting, placed to view the small, meticulously pruned pine tree in the corner. You sit. The stone is cold. From this vantage point, you can take in the entire microcosm. The sounds layer themselves into a quiet harmony. The deep, rhythmic plonk of the water drip, the occasional clink from the kitchen, the random tink of the glass chime, the soft shuff of the contracting basket, and underneath it all the incredibly faint, steady hum of the house's electricity if you listen for it, or perhaps just the blood in your own ears. This courtyard is a stage where the quiet drama of domestic life plays out in slow motion and in reverse. Every sound is an echo of an action completed. Water fetched, food cooked, tools set down, doors closed. There is no urgency, no preparation for what comes next. There is only the gentle aftermath. The space holds the resonance of the family's day, not the loud moments, but the quiet ones of tending, cleaning, resting. The stones hold the memory of bare feet. The basin holds the memory of washed hands. The air holds the memory of spoken words now finished. Sitting there, you are no longer a traveler passing through. You are a witness to the profound peace that exists in the interstitial spaces of life, in the pauses between actions, in the careful, quiet order of a home at rest. The family courtyard does not offer grandeur or excitement. It offers the deep, reassuring calm of routine, of care, of a small, well-tended world existing in perfect, self-contained harmony under the stars. The sounds are not events. They are punctuation marks in a long, silent sentence of peace. You close your eyes and let the plonk, shuff, tink wash over you, a lullaby composed not of melody, but of the gentle, fading echoes of a day lived well and now released, moment by patient moment, into the cool, still, private night. Leaving the intimate, stone-raked silence of the family courtyard feels like surfacing from a deep, still pool. You unlatch the bamboo gate, its dry snick, a soft farewell, and step back onto the village's communal artery, the pathway. But the path here is different from the wide, lantern-lined lane near the entrance. This is a secondary route, narrower, darker, and more personal, a vein threading between the sleeping backs of houses and the unseen boundaries of small, walled gardens. The packed earth underfoot is the same, but the sensation is new. You are no longer at the village's edge or its ceremonial heart. You are woven into its quiet, domestic fabric. You begin to walk. The first sensation is underfoot. The path is not perfectly smooth. It has a subtle, living topography. Your soul registers the gentle, rolling undulations where generations of feet have pressed the soil down more in the center than at the edges. There are occasional small stones, not sharp, but rounded by time and traffic, that shift with a faint clack under your weight. In one spot, the earth is slightly damp from a hidden seep, and your foot sinks a fraction of an inch with a soft, suctional squelch, releasing a puff of rich, dank odor. The sound is earthy, primal, a reminder of the ground beneath all human construction. The soundscape of the pathway is a study in intimacy and distance. The great insect chorus from the open fields is now a muted backdrop, a shimmering haze of sound that seems to come from over the rooftops. Here, closer to the ground and the walls, more immediate sounds dominate. The most prominent is the gentle, constant shush-shush-shush of your own trousers brushing together, with each step a private rhythm. Your breathing, slow and calm, is audible in your own ears. These personal sounds are held within a bubble of quiet that the narrow path seems to enforce. Then the sounds of the village itself filtered through walls and fences. To your left, behind a high wooden fence made of interwoven bamboo, you hear a soft, snuffling grunt and the rustle thump of a heavy body settling in deep straw, a family's pig asleep in its pen. The sounds are lazy, contented. Further on, from a kitchen garden on your right, comes the delicate, papery flick-flick of broad, dry leaves, perhaps those of a giant burdock or rhubarb plant, brushing against each other in the faintest breeze. It is a sound like gentle, ghostly applause. The path turns sharply around the corner of a storehouse, a kora, with walls of white-painted clay and tiles. As you round the corner, the acoustics change. The sound of your footsteps, previously absorbed, now echoes softly off the kora's hard, flat surface. Step, soft echo. Step, soft echo. It feels as if you're being followed by a quieter, more patient version of yourself. From the kora's roof, you hear a rapid, light scritch, 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 the sound of a tree frog, or perhaps a gecko, hunting insects in the ceramic gutter. You pass a spot where the path is crossed overhead by a fragile-looking wooden bridge connecting the second floors of two merchant houses from a bygone era. It is dark and unused, a relic, but as a breeze funnels down the alley, it sets the ancient, desiccated wood of the bridge moaning. The sound is a low, drawn-out usiyo-a, a vocalization of age and emptiness that hangs in the air for a long moment before fading. It is not a sad sound, but a historical one, a whisper from the village's busier past. The scents on the path are transient, changing every few steps. One moment it's the clean, soapy smell of laundry that dried on a line hours ago. The next it's the pungent fermented tang of pickling Nuka bran from a backyard crock. Then the sweet, overripe perfume of fallen khaki persimmons from a tree whose branches overhang a wall, their smashed fruit trodden unseen into the path by earlier passers-by, leaving a sticky, fragrant patch. Ahead, the path meets a slightly wider lane at a T-junction. A single rusted iron street lamp stands there, unlit, its glass panes cloudy with dust and spiderwebs. As you approach this small, open node, new auditory layers unfold. From down the wider lane to your right comes the distant echoing tap-tap of someone walking with a cane, the sound growing slowly, louder than fading as the unseen walker turns a corner, a sonic ghost passing in the night. Directly ahead, where the path continues, a dog barks. Not a frantic alarm, but a single, bored, resonant woof. It is a statement of territory, of presence. It is answered after a considered pause by another single woof from a dog much further away, a call and response of canine sentinels confirming the peace of their shared domain. The barks are not jarring. They are punctuation marks in the night's long sentence. You choose to continue straight onto the narrower path. Here, the houses are so close their eaves almost touch overhead, creating a tunnel. The world darkens further. The sky is reduced to a jagged ribbon of stars. The sound of your footsteps becomes muffled again. You hear the gentle, liquid drip-drip of condensation falling from a thatched roof onto a large, flat leaf below. Plat, plat, plat. You stop to listen. In the silence following the cessation of your own steps, you hear something else. From within the house, whose roof is dripping, the faint, steady, metallic tick. Tick, tick of an old-fashioned wind-up alarm clock. It is set on a shelf or a floor, its sound amplified by the quiet house and leaking through the paper walls. It is the sound of time being patiently, mechanically counted inside a bubble of sleep, a tiny, relentless heartbeat at the core of the silent home. You walk on and the path begins to slope gently upward. With the incline, your breathing deepens slightly. The sound mixes with the other nocturnal breaths around you, the sigh of the wind in the power lines, now audible as a low industrial hum, the rhythmic snore still faintly detectable from an open window, the collective exhalation of the earth itself. The path is no longer just a route. It is a connective tissue, carrying sounds, scents, and your own quiet presence from one sleeping pocket of life to another. Each step is a stitch in the fabric of the village's night. Each sound encountered, the pig's grunt, the bridge's moan, the dog's bark, the clock's tick, is a thread in that fabric. You are not walking through the village. You are walking with it, your own quiet progress becoming part of its slow, dark, breathing, ancient rhythm, one soft footfall on packed earth at a time, on the endless, winding village pathways under the stars. The upward slope of the path leads you to a small, level plateau, a natural terrace carved into the hillside where the village clings. Here the tight press of houses and fences falls away, and the path widens into a modest overlook. But it is not the view that captures you. The valley below is a bowl of darkness punctuated by the few distant, lonely lights of far-off farms. Instead, it is a scent that stops you, a green, damp, profoundly alive fragrance that cuts through the dry smells of earth and wood. Following it with your senses, you notice a break in the stone wall lining the path. It is not a gate, but an archway woven from living bamboo, its canes bent and tied to form a low, natural portal. This is not the entrance to a home or a courtyard, but to a small, hidden garden corner, a pocket of cultivated wildness tucked between the village and the mountain forest. You duck under the bamboo arch. The transition is immediate. The hard-packed earth of the path gives way to a soft, spongy carpet of moss, so thick it silences your footsteps completely. The air is several degrees cooler and hangs with a palpable moisture. You have entered a miniature world. The garden is perhaps 20 feet across, a irregular shape bounded by the stone wall on one side and a steep, fern-covered bank on the other. It is not a show garden, but a borrowed scenery garden that blends seamlessly with the wild forest beyond, using careful planting to frame and incorporate the natural view. You stand still, letting the garden's nocturnal orchestra tune itself around you. The most dominant sound, previously masked by the village's ambient noise, is water. Not a drip or a channel, but a tiny natural seep. At the back of the garden, where the ferns are densest, water weeps from a mossy stone outcropping, trickling down a short, black slate slab into a shallow stone basin, a mizubachi. The sound is a continuous, gentle trickle-splash-trickle, a liquid whisper that is the garden's heartbeat. It is a softer, more natural cousin to the courtyard's rhythmic drip. Around this watery heart, the garden is arranged. A single, ancient Japanese maple, a momiji, stands sentinel, its gnarled trunk leaning poetically. Its leaves, not yet turned to autumn fire, are a dark silhouette shape against the sky. A night breeze, channeled into this sheltered nook, stirs them. The sound is exquisite, a dry, delicate rasp whisper, like thousands of sheets of fine rice paper being gently rubbed together. It is a sound of such fragility and beauty, it seems to hang in the moist air. Beneath the maple, the ground is a tapestry of shade-loving plants. Large, broad leaves of Fuki butterbur overlap, their surfaces still wet with evening dew. As a heavier droplet rolls from one leaf to another, it lands with a soft, distinct pat. Hostas, their leaves like dark green spears, stand in clumps. You crouch and gently run your fingers along the rib of one leaf. It is cool and waxy, and your touch disturbs a tiny, hidden creature, a cricket or a small frog that launches itself into the foliage with a sudden, rustling chirp and a single, alarmed chirp. Before the garden settles back into peace, your eyes adjust to the deeper gloom. You notice the stones. They are not arranged randomly, but placed with intention. A flat, gray stepping stone leads to the water basin. A larger, upright stone, a tatagishi, stands like a quiet monument beside the maple, its surface dappled with lichen. In the faint starlight filtered through the leaves, the stones seem to glow with a faint internal gray light. They are the garden's bones, silent and eternal. You move to the stone basin and kneel on a small woven rush mat, placed there for that purpose. The water, welling up from the slate, is crystal clear and icy cold. You cup your hands and drink. The cold is shocking, clean, tasting of stone and mountain. The act of drinking here feels ceremonial, a communion with the place. You set your hands on the basin's edge, the stone worn smooth by weather and time. From this position, you look back at the garden's composition. The maple, the stones, the ferns, the seep. They create a perfect miniature landscape that feels 1,000 miles wide. This is the essence of wabi-sabi. Beauty and imperfection, transience, and the patina of age. The moss is not a flaw. It is the garden's velvet robe. The leaning tree is not broken. It is a gesture of grace. As you sit, the garden's smaller hidden residents begin to announce themselves. From the damp soil near your knee comes a slow, deliberate scratch, scratch. An earthworm moving through its dark universe. From the fern bank, a different insect, one with a slower, deeper song begins. Azawa, zawa, 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 like the sound of a tiny, distant saw. A bat, or perhaps a large night moth, flutters silently past your ear, its wings disturbing the air with a soft huff-huff. You feel more than hear. Time dissolves in this green, wet, whispering corner. The village with its pathways and houses feels distant, a human construct. Here you are in a realm governed by older laws, the seep of water, the growth of moss, the turn of leaves. The gentle trickle splash and the leaf rasp are a meditation. Your breathing slows to match their rhythm. Your thoughts, which even in the quiet village had a gentle, narrative flow, noticing this, remembering that now still completely. There is nothing to think about. There is only the cool moss under your knees, the taste of stone water in your mouth, the delicate sound of leaves, and the profound living peace of a small perfect world that exists for no reason other than to be beautiful and quiet. This garden corner is the village's soul, its connection to the wild, untamed mountain from which it sprang. It is a reminder that all the order of the paths, the houses, the routines, is just a temporary arrangement within the greater, slow, green, growing, dripping, rustling life of the world. You sit for a long time until the chill from the stone seeps through your clothes. You rise slowly, your muscles stiff. You bow slightly, unconsciously, to the garden, to the maple, to the seep. Then you turn and duck back under the bamboo arch, leaving the liquid whispers and green scent behind, carrying only the deep, mossy silence within you as you step back onto the packed earth path, the village once again wrapping you in its gentle human night. The lingering coolness of moss and stone water clings to your skin as you leave the garden-esque green whisper, returning to the world of human habitation. The path descends from the terraced overlook, winding back into the close embrace of the village's wooden walls. A new subtle fragrance begins to weave into the night air, not the perfume of plants or wet earth, but a compound domestic aroma. The faint, acrid ghost of wood smoke, the sweet yeasty scent of dried rice, the sharp clean tang of vinegar, and the underlying oily smell of a well-seasoned wok. It is the olfactory signature of a kitchen, but not one in active use. It is the smell of a kitchen remembering its day's work, the residual essence of meals prepared and consumed, now settling into the porous clay walls and wooden beams. You follow this scent like a quiet detective, your footsteps softening as you approach a traditional home where the kitchen, the decoro, is not hidden away, but forms a semi-open extension at the back. You find it not by a door, but by a wide open bay covered only by a hanging Norn curtain. Now still, its indigo fabric faded to soft gray. The curtain is split down the middle, offering a glimpse into the shadowy interior. You do not enter. You stand at the threshold, a respectful observer in the frame. The kitchen is revealed in the dim, ambient light, filtering from a paper-shaded window in the main house. It is a space of beautiful, utilitarian simplicity, now resting in profound peace. The first thing you see is the kamado, the traditional earthenware stove, built into a raised platform of clay and tile. The fire within is long dead, but the stove's massive black iron hatch is still warm. You can feel its radiant heat from 3 feet away, a last whisper of the evening's fire. On its flat top sit 2 large blackened iron kettles, their shapes rounded and comforting. As the metal cools, it emits a soft, almost musical series of ticks and pings, the sound of contraction, of heat retreating into memory. Tick, pause. Ping. Tick, tick. It is a slow, random percussion, a lullaby for the sleeping stove. Beneath this, your eyes adjust to see the kitchen's other features. A deep wooden sink, carved from a single block of hinoki cypress, sits under a bamboo water pipe. A single droplet clings to the pipe's end, gathering weight. You watch, unmoving. After a full minute, it falls, striking the empty sink with a clear, hollow tope that echoes softly in the quiet space. The sound is lonely and final. The sink is dry, wiped clean. Next to it, on a low wooden rack, an array of ceramic bowls and plates are stacked. Their glazes celadon green, iron black, milky white, gleaming dully in the weak light. They are utterly still. You let your gaze travel. Hanging from hooks above a central preparation table are the kitchen-S tools. A well-worn wooden rice paddle, its edge smooth from stirring. Several long-handled bamboo strainers. A set of sharp knives tucked into a wooden block. They are motionless, but the air in the room is not perfectly still. A faint, almost imperceptible draft moves through from the open back, where screens lead to a small herb garden. This draft is enough to set a light metal ladle hanging from a nail swinging by a hair's breadth. Its movement is invisible, but every few minutes its edge brushes against a ceramic soy sauce jug beside it. The contact produces a delicate, high-pitched ting, a sound so pure and quiet it seems to hang in the air like a crystal note before dissolving. Ting. A minute passes. Ting. It is the kitchen's heartbeat, slow and fragile. From within the house proper, through the internal sliding door, left slightly ajar, come the soft, domestic sounds of the family at their final, quiet activities. The muffled clink of a porcelain teacup being set on a wooden table. The gentle shuff-shuff of fabric, someone in socks moving across tatami. A low, murmured word, indistinguishable, followed by a soft sigh of contentment. These sounds are not intrusions. They are the reason for the kitchen's existence, its purpose fulfilled, now enjoying its well-earned rest. Your attention returns to the Kamado stove. The ticking has ceased. It has reached equilibrium with the room's temperature. Now, another sound emerges, a soft, gritty crunch. It comes from within the stove's ash compartment. A piece of charcoal, burned through, but still holding its shape, finally collapses under its own weight, disintegrating into a pile of gray powder. The sound is dry, final, and deeply satisfying. The smells in the kitchen are not static. They shift and unfold as you stand there. The dominant wood smoke fades, allowing a subtler layer to rise. The nutty, toasted aroma of katsuobushi, shaved bonito flakes, from an earlier dashi broth. Then the faint, sour-sweet smell of the pickling crock in the corner, its stone weight pressing down on vegetables fermenting in their own time. And always the clean, woody scent of the hinoki sink and counters, a baseline of purity beneath the day's culinary history. You notice small signs of the evening's routine. A damp, folded cotton cloth hangs over the edge of the sink, drying slowly. A single, perfect green onion sits on a cutting board, its root end trimmed, left for tomorrow's breakfast miso soup. A bamboo steamer basket is upturned on a rack, airing out. Each object tells a story of care, of a process completed with attention and respect. This kitchen was not just a place to cook food. It was a place where ingredients were honored, where fire was tended, where nourishment was crafted with quiet skill. Standing at the threshold, you are filled with a profound sense of peace that is different from the garden see wild peace, or the courtyard as private peace. This is the peace of daily labor completed, of a space that has served its purpose perfectly and now rests, empty and clean, holding only the echoes and scents of its service. The occasional ting of the ladle, the hollow toke of the water drop, the soft crunch of the collapsing charcoal, these are not disruptions, but the gentle sounds of a machine winding down, an organism digesting its day. The traditional kitchen at rest is a temple to cyclical time, to the rhythm of hunger and satisfaction, of fire lit and fire banked, of mess created and mess cleansed. It offers no drama, only the deep, resonant calm that comes after a job well done, sitting in the dark, waiting with infinite patience for the first light of dawn, and the soft scratch of a match that will begin the cycle anew. The lingering, savory ghosts of the kitchen fade as you turn from the Norn curtain, your senses pulled inward by a different kind of quiet. Ahead, a single paper-screened show-sheet door glows with a soft, diffuse light from within the main house. It is the only source of illumination in this dark corridor, a pale, golden rectangle that seems to breathe gently in its frame. This is the entrance to a tatami room, the washitsu, the heart of a Japanese home, a space defined not by furniture, but by emptiness, texture, and profound calm. You approach silently, your footsteps absorbed by the wooden floorboards of the Ingawa veranda. At the door, you pause. There is no handle, just a subtle indentation in the wooden frame. You slide the door to the side. It moves with a whisper, a soft shuash of wood on wood, and the room's atmosphere flows out to meet you. You step up and in, leaving your shoes behind as instinct dictates. The first sensation is underfoot, the tatami mats. Their texture is unique, firm yet yielding, a dense, resilient surface woven from dried rush grass, higusa. As your socked feet settle, the compressed straw releases a faint, sweet, hay-like fragrance, the scent of sun-drenched fields sealed within the mat for years. The smell is clean, dry, and deeply calming. You take a few steps. The tatami responds with a soft, fibrous creak squeak, a sound of gentle compression, like walking on a very firm, living moss. It is not a noise of protest, but of acknowledgement, a quiet conversation between your weight and the floor's resilient memory. The room is almost bare. Its beauty lies in its simplicity and precise proportions. The tatami mats, their edges bound in dark black cloth, define a grid of perfect rectangles. The walls are plain, off-white plaster, broken only by a single low alcove, the tokonoma. Within it rests a single object, a slender, black-glazed ceramic vase holding a solitary branch of nandina, its leaves a dark silhouette, and a few berries like drops of blood in the gloom. Below it, a simple scroll hangs, its calligraphy too faint to read in the low light, just vertical strokes of ink suggesting mountains or perhaps waterfalls. This is the room's soul, a focal point for contemplation that asks for nothing but quiet attention. The light comes from a single source, an Anden floor lamp in the corner, its paper shade painted with a delicate pattern of cranes in flight. The oil flame within is tiny, but its warm, golden glow is magnified by the paper, filling the room with a soft, even luminescence that casts no harsh shadows. It lights the edges of the tatami, the grain of the wooden ceiling beams, and the texture of the plaster walls, making everything seem to glow from within. The light itself seems still, as if the very photons are moving slowly, respectfully, through the serene space. You sit on the tatami, cross-legged in the center of the room. The position feels natural, grounded. As you settle into stillness, the room's soundscape, previously unnoticed, unfolds. The most prominent sound is the soft, constant hiss-whisper of the Anden's flame, a cleaner, quieter sound than a candle's. It is the auditory signature of the light, a gentle white noise. Beneath that, your own breathing becomes audible, slow, deep, and even. The tatami beneath you seems to absorb the sound, making it feel part of the room. Then the house speaks. A deep, resonant groan, travels through the wooden frame, a settling sigh as the night's coolness fully penetrates the structure. It is answered by a series of tiny, high-pitched creaks from the ceiling, the sound of the thin, wooden laths adjusting minutely in their moorings. These are not alarming sounds. They are the sounds of the house breathing, a living organism resting its bones. From the tokonoma alcove, a new, delicate sound emerges. A night insect, perhaps a small spider or a beetle, walks across the dry scroll paper. Its minute steps make a faint, scratchy tick-tick sound, like a pencil dotting paper. It is a sound of pure, tiny life going about its business in the sacred space, unnoticed and unbothered. You let your gaze soften, not looking at anything in particular, but taking in the room as a whole. The play of the soft light on the textured surfaces is hypnotic. The rough plaster wall, the smooth, black lacquered edge of a support pillar, the fibrous grid of the tatami, they create a visual harmony of rectangles and planes that is deeply soothing to the mind. There is nothing to figure out, nothing to rearrange. Everything is in its perfect place. This room is an exercise in negative space, where the emptiness is as important as the objects. It is a vessel designed to hold not things, but peace. Time seems to slow, then stretch, then lose its meaning entirely. The hiss of the lamp, the occasional creak of the house, the tick-tick of the insect, your own breath, they become a slow, looping melody with no beginning and no end. Thoughts that enter your mind seem to hit the soft, white walls and dissolve, having nowhere to latch on, nothing to spark against. The room gently insists on stillness. It is not a demand, but an invitation so profound it becomes a fact. You notice the air. It is still, cool, and carries a faint, clean scent of the tanned straw and the slight, ozone-like smell of the old paper in the scroll. It is air that has been still for hours, undisturbed, becoming its own pure element within the sealed room. You take a deep breath of it, and it feels like drinking clear, cold water. Sitting in the tatami room is an act of alignment. Your body aligns with the grid of the floor. Your breath aligns with the room's slow rhythms. Your mind aligns with the emptiness. The outside world, the paths, the gardens, the kitchens feels distant, a series of pleasant dreams. This room is the dream's silent, golden core. It is a space designed for nothing but being present, for experiencing the profound peace that exists in the absence of want, of need, of clutter, of noise. It is the auditory and visual expression of the sacred pause, the meaningful void. You sit within it, and gradually, you become part of it, just another quiet element in the composition of soft, light, textured straw, whispering flame, and endless, gentle tatami room peace. The tatami room does not release you. It dissolves around you. The profound golden peace you absorbed while sitting in its center has become part of your own stillness. There is no conscious decision to leave, merely a slow gravitational pull back toward the larger world. You rise, your joints protesting with a series of soft internal clicks that are surprisingly loud in the encompassing silence. You slide the shoshi door open. The shoe-wash of paper and wood is a gentle tearing of the quiet, a sound that marks the transition from the room's contained peace to the vast, open stillness of the village at its deepest hour. The corridor outside is a tunnel of absolute black, colder and heavier than the air in the glowing room. You step down, your feet finding the cool, solid floorboards of the Engawa, and you are once again outside, under the immense star-dusted bowl of the night sky. This is a different silence from before. The earlier quiet was a tapestry of gentle sounds, the distant insect chorus, the settling groans of a house, the whisper of a breeze. That was the sound of a world going to sleep. This is the sound of a world that is deeply, irrevocably asleep. The silence now is not an absence of noise, but a positive presence in itself. It is a physical weight, a thick velvet blanket that smothers all vibration, all movement, all possibility of sound. The insect chorus has faded, subdued by the deepening cold, reduced to a faint, high-frequency hum at the very edge of hearing, like the memory of a sound rather than the sound itself. The houses no longer creak. They have settled into their final resting positions for the night. The air is so completely still that the leaves on the maple tree in the courtyard hang as if carved from stone. You walk away from the house back toward the main village pathway. Your footsteps on the packed earth, which earlier seemed a soft, personal rhythm, now feel like detonations in the stillness. Each soft thump of your footfall is a singular event, an intrusion. The sound doesn't echo. The heavy air seems to catch it and absorb it instantly. You find yourself instinctively altering your gait, walking more slowly on the balls of your feet, trying to merge with the quiet, to become as silent as the sleeping homes and the unmoving trees. You are the only thing that moves in this entire landscape. You are a solitary thought drifting through a sleeping mind. The path is empty. This is not the simple emptiness of a road with no traffic. It is a more profound state of being. The path is empty of purpose, empty of destination. It is not waiting for anyone. It simply is. The shadows of the houses, cast by the high, cold starlight, are sharp and black, like geometric cuts in the fabric of the world. They have not moved in hours. They will not move for hours more. Time itself seems to have congealed. The seconds do not tick by. They stretch, becoming vast, elastic containers of pure stillness. You could stand here for an hour, and it might feel like a minute. You could take 3 steps, and it could feel like a lifetime. You passed a junction with the unlit iron street lamp. Earlier you heard a distant dog's bark, the tap of a cane. Now there is nothing. No echo of life, no trace of activity. The entire village holds its breath. You look down a narrow alley between 2 storehouses. It is a channel of perfect, impenetrable black. To step into it would be like stepping into deep, cold water. The darkness is not threatening. It is stable, ancient, and deeply safe. It promises nothing but an end to all seeing, all striving. It promises rest. As you stand at the junction, a single persimmon leaf, dried and curled, detaches from a high branch. It does not flutter down. In the still air, it falls in a straight, unwavering line. You track its descent. It lands on the tiled roof of a low wall with a tiny, impossibly loud tick-snap. The sound is exquisite in its clarity, a singular point of percussion in a world of absolute silence. After the sound, the quiet that rushes back in to fill the space feels even deeper, even more absolute than before. It is the quiet of a world that has noticed the fall of a single leaf. Your own body becomes a source of noise. You can hear the slow, heavy beat of your own heart, a muffled drum deep within your chest. You can hear the faint, high-pitched hiss of blood rushing in your ears. When you swallow, the sound is a complex internal cascade. Your own biology is the only engine running in this silent world. The feeling is not one of loneliness, but of a unique, heightened awareness. You are the sole custodian of this silence, the only witness to this moment of absolute planetary peace. You continue walking, your senses now tuned to this new, deeper level of quiet. The gurgle of the water channel, which before was a gentle background murmur, now seems like a roar. It is the only voice left, the only element that still speaks of movement and flow. It is the village's one, ceaseless dream mutter in its deep slumber. You kneel by its edge and watch the starlight glitter on its fast-moving surface. The contrast is immense. The utter stillness of the earth and the houses, and the endless liquid motion of the water. It is a reminder that even in the deepest stillness, a current of life of time flows onward. Time has lost its forward momentum. It is no longer a path leading from one event to the next. It has become a space, a vast, quiet room in which you are the only occupant. The past is a dream you have forgotten. The future is an idea that has no meaning. There is only the isness of this moment, the cold air, the hard-packed earth, the smell of moss, the sound of water, the weight of the immense silent sky. Thoughts of your own life, of the world beyond this village, seem like broadcasts from another galaxy, faint and irrelevant. They cannot find purchase here. They rise, and the deep stillness simply absorbs them. You stop in the middle of the widest part of the path, where it becomes a small, empty square. You stand completely still, matching your stillness to the world's. You are a statue in a village of statues. You look up. The sky is a revelation. With no competing light, the Milky Way is a thick, luminous river of dust and fire, splashed across the blackness, from horizon to horizon. The stars do not twinkle. They burn with a fierce, steady, cold light. The sheer, overwhelming scale of the cosmos presses down, and in this tiny, forgotten corner of the world, a single human-shaped arrangement of atoms stands, breathing quietly, witnessing it all. The feeling that washes over you is one of profound, almost heartbreaking peace. This is the nadir of the night, the moment of deepest quiet, the pivot point around which the great wheel of day and night will eventually turn. But it is not turning yet. It is resting at the bottom of its arc, gathering its strength. To be awake in this moment is a privilege. To be a part of this immense shared stillness of the sleeping families in their wooden homes, of the birds in the trees, of the stones in the walls, of the very earth itself, is to understand the meaning of rest. It is not an activity, not something you do. It is a state of being you are allowed to enter. The late-night stillness of the village is not empty. It is full. It is full of peace. The immense external stillness of the empty streets begins to seep inward, drawing your attention from the vast, starry sky to the intimate, unseen spaces within the sleeping homes. You stand before a house whose shoshi screens are thin and old, allowing a faint, almost imperceptible intimation of the world within. The moonlight, now high and bright, filters through the delicate paper, creating a ghostly, luminous rectangle that hints at a hidden geometry. You are not looking into the house. You are looking at the boundary between the public night and the private one. And in your mind's eye, you step through that boundary, not as an intruder, but as a silent, disembodied observer to witness the secret life of rooms and objects at rest. You find yourself in a corridor, an ingawa that has been enclosed for the winter. The wooden floorboards are polished to a dark sheen by 100 years of stockinged feet. The moonlight, slanting through a high window, lays a series of pale, dusty bars across the floor, illuminating the air itself, making the floating dust motes gleam like a slow-motion galaxy. The air is cold, still, and smells of old wood and the faint, clean scent of the paper screens. Nothing moves. You are in a vessel of pure stillness. A closed door to your left leads to the main part of the house. Another, at the far end, is slightly ajar. You drift toward it. The space beyond is a small, functional room, perhaps a study or a sewing room. It is a space defined by the objects it holds. And tonight, these objects are the main characters in a silent drama of existence. A simple wooden desk stands against the far wall. On its surface, an inkstone accessory sits, its shallow well holding a pool of dried black ink, cracked like a miniature desert landscape. Beside it, a brush rests on a ceramic holder, its fine sable hairs, stiff and dry, still sculpted to a perfect point from its last use. A half-finished letter lies on the desk, the vertical columns of calligraphy trailing off mid-sentence. The story has been paused. The brush, the ink, the paper, they wait with infinite patience for the hand that will return to complete the thought. They do not long for it. They do not anticipate it. They simply exist in their state of perfect, suspended potential. On a low set of shelves, tansu drawers with ornate iron pulls stand silent. They are closed. Their contents, folded kimonos, personal letters, dried herbs, family records, are a hidden world, a compressed history. The drawers are not merely containers. They are guardians of memory, their wooden faces impassive and serene. You can almost feel the weight of the accumulated years held within their dark, fragrant interiors. They hum with a quiet, resonant history, a story told in the scent of camphor wood and aged silk. A single, straight-backed wooden chair is pushed neatly under the desk. Its seat is a woven rush mat, identical in texture to the tatami, but on a smaller scale. The chair is empty, but it is not a sad emptiness. It is the calm, dignified emptiness of a tool that has served its purpose for the day. It holds the faint, lingering impression of the person who sat there, a subtle warmth that has not yet fully dissipated into the cold night air. The chair is not waiting to be filled. It is resting, its work done. You drift out of this study and further into the house's unseen core. You find yourself in a larger room, the main living space. The andon lamp is out. The tatami mats are cool expanses of shadow. In the center of the room is a low table, a chabudai. Its lacquered surface reflects the faint moonlight like a pool of still black water. On the table sits a single porcelain teacup, its pale, celadon glaze almost glowing. It is not in the center of the table, but set slightly to one side, exactly where it was left after a final, contemplative sip of evening tea. A tiny, dried tea leaf clings to the inside bottom of the cup. The cup, the table, the single leaf, they form a perfect accidental composition, a still life of profound peace. It is a portrait of a moment of quiet contentment that has just passed, its echo still vibrating in the stillness. Your gaze is drawn to the tokonoma alcove. In the deep gloom, you can just make out the form of the objects within it. The hanging scroll, the kakeiku, is a pale rectangle against the dark wall, its landscape of mountains and mist now almost entirely consumed by the shadows. The flower arrangement, the ikebana, in its bronze vase is a study in silhouette. A single arching branch of willow, its leaves long and slender, droops gracefully. Its form is a gesture of surrender to the night, a quiet bow. These objects are not decorative. They are focal points for the room's energy. And now, with no one to view them, their purpose is not to be seen, but simply to be. They hold the space, anchoring the room's emptiness and giving it meaning. They are the silent, meditating heart of the home. You move through an open fusima screen into another corridor, this one entirely internal, utterly black. You navigate not by sight, but by a sense of the space. You can feel the proximity of the plaster walls, the low ceiling. You pass a series of closed doors. Behind one, you can imagine a bedroom. A futon is laid out on the tatami, its thick cotton comfort, a welcoming island in the cold room. A folded robe lies at its side. A person or a family is asleep there, their breathing slow and deep, a soft rhythmic counterpoint to the house's utter silence. The room is a sanctuary, a fragile bubble of warmth and life, protected by thin walls of paper and wood. The objects within a hair comb on a low shelf, a book by the pillow, a glass of water, are participants in this nightly ritual of rest. They are the silent, loyal servants of sleep. Finally, you arrive at the kitchen, the Dedekoro. It is a world of cold, dormant tools. The great iron Kamado stove is a black, hulking presence, its fire long dead, its surface cold to the touch. Pots and pans hang from hooks, their metal surfaces gleaming dully. They are quiet. The knives are asleep in their wooden block. The rice paddles are dry. But the room is not empty of life. In a dark corner, a large ceramic crock of rice bran for pickling, the nukadoko is silently and visibly at work. Fermentation, a process of slow microbial transformation, continues through the night, independent of human activity. It is a deep, ancient life force, a quiet alchemy turning simple vegetables into something complex and savory. The crock emits a faint, sour, yeasty smell, the quiet breath of a billion tiny living things. Everywhere you look, the world of objects exists in a state of profound peace. They have been released from their function, from the hands that use them. A broom leans against a wall, its bristles still holding the dust of the day. A pair of sandals sits neatly aligned at the doorstep, awaiting the morning. A woven basket holds 3 perfect, smooth stones, collected for a reason now forgotten. In the stillness of the night, these objects are not just inert things. They are imbued with a kind of spirit, a quiet dignity. They are the silent witnesses to the daily cycles of life, the patient keepers of routine. They hold the memory of work, of care, of human touch. And now, in the deepest part of the night, they rest, just as the people who own them rest. They are not waiting. They are not anticipating. They are simply being, existing in the pure, uncluttered, and deeply peaceful state of things as they are, in the silent rooms and corridors of a sleeping house. You withdraw from the imagined interiors, from the silent, waiting objects and the still, private rooms. The boundary of the paper screen reasserts itself, and you are once again outside, a solitary figure standing in the deep, unwavering stillness of the village lane. You have explored the solid things, the earth, the stones, the wood, the water. You have witnessed the village in its physical form. Now your attention shifts to the intangible, to the very medium in which this entire sleeping world is suspended, the night air. You take a breath. It is a conscious act. The air that fills your lungs is not the neutral, recycled atmosphere of an indoor space. This air has character. It is a living element, cold, crisp, and astonishingly clean. The cold is the first thing you notice. It is not a harsh, biting cold, but a deep, penetrating coolness that seems to have settled down from the high, empty spaces between the stars. It feels ancient, pure. It lays a cool hand on your exposed skin, your cheeks, the back of your neck. It seeps through the fabric of your clothes, not with aggression, but with a gentle, insistent pressure, reminding you of your own warmth, your own fragile living heat in this vast, cool environment. You breathe out and your breath plumes in front of you, a brief, ghostly cloud of white in the darkness, illuminated by some faint ambient starlight. It hangs for a moment, a visible marker of your own life, before dissolving completely into the greater volume of the night. You watch it vanish. You are breathing the village in, and breathing yourself back out into it. It is a slow, silent exchange. The air is a carrier of scent, a curator of the village's olfactory soul. As you stand motionless, you begin to dissect its complex perfume. The most immediate layer is the smell of cold stone and damp earth, the foundational scent of the path beneath your feet and the low walls beside you. It is a clean, mineral fragrance, the smell of the planet at rest. Layered upon this is the persistent, dry, and almost sweet scent of aged wood cedar and cypress from the houses, bamboo from the fences. It is the scent of shelter of human craft slowly returning to nature. But then a subtle shift. A current too gentle to be called a breeze drifts down from the hillside that cradles the village. It is not a wind that you can feel, but a slow, massive river of colder, denser air flowing down the incline like invisible water, and it brings with it new information. It carries the sharp, resinous perfume of the pine forest that crowns the hill, a scent that speaks of altitude, of wildness, of a place untouched by human hands. It is mixed with the faint, almost undetectable sweetness of the last few blossoms on a wild plum tree, a final, ghostly hint of spring in this late season. The current of air flows around you, over the roofs of the houses, and settles in the low-lying areas near the rice paddies. You begin to walk, and with each step, the scent profile changes. As you pass a dark garden, the air is thick with the damp, green smell of moss, and the rich, loamy odor of soil that has been turned and tended for centuries. You pass the kitchen wing of a house, and though the fires are long out, the air still holds the faintest, most subtle ghost of wood smoke, an acrid but comforting memory of the evening's warmth and nourishment. It is less a smell and more a historical record, a trace element in the atmosphere. The air is not silent. Its movement, however slight, creates its own delicate symphony. You hear it as a soft, low whoosh, as it rounds the sharp corner of a tiled roof high above you. It is the sound of a fluid moving around an obstacle, a sound of pure physics that is profoundly calming. It finds a loose wooden shutter on a second-story window, and for a few moments it pushes against it, creating a soft, intermittent tap-tap against the window frame, a sound like a patient, ghostly visitor. It flows through the bare branches of the persimmon tree, and the sound is different from the rustle of leaves. It is a high, thin whistle, a reedy, mournful note that seems to be the very voice of the cold space between the stars. It finds the single modern affectation in the village a thin utility wire stretching between two poles, and it creates a low, almost subliminal hum, a single sustained bass note that underpins the other more natural sounds. It is the only hint of a world beyond this one, and it feels alien, strange, yet ultimately absorbed into the greater peace. You walk toward the small stone bridge over the water channel. Here, the movement of the air is most noticeable. The channel acts as a natural corridor. The air, cooled by the swift-running water, flows along it, creating a distinct, tangible breeze. You feel it on your face, colder and more directed than the still air in the lanes. It plays across the surface of the water, creating a pattern of shivering, fleeting ripples that shatter and reform the reflections of the stars. The sound of the air here is a constant, soft sigh, mingling with the gurgle of the water to create a layered, complex lullaby. From this vantage point on the bridge, you become aware of the broader environment, of the village as a single, breathing ecosystem. You look toward the dark mass of the mountains. The air flowing down from them is the exhalation of the forest. You look toward the flat, dark expanse of the harvested rice paddies. The air rising from them, smelling of damp earth and decaying straw, is the exhalation of the fields. The village, nestled between them, is in the path of this great, slow, nocturnal respiration. The entire valley is breathing, and you are standing in its lungs. There are no sudden gusts, no dramatic changes. The environment's processes are slow, deliberate, and ancient. A slight increase in the wind's velocity brings a new sound from far away the dry, collective rustle of a whole grove of bamboo, a sound like a distant ocean shore. A shift in its direction brings a new scent, the sharp, pungent smell of a patch of wild ginger growing near the forest's edge. The air is a dynamic medium, a river that carries the essence of the landscape to you, piece by piece. You take another deep breath, and this time you feel it differently. You are not just taking in oxygen. You are drinking the environment. You are inhaling the cold of the stones, the scent of the pines, the memory of the wood smoke, the moisture from the river. It feels cleansing, as if this pure, cold, living air is washing the inside of your body, sweeping away the stale, internal dust of your own thoughts and anxieties. It is a form of communion. The night air is the invisible connective tissue of the village. It is the one thing that touches everything. It fills the empty rooms and the silent corridors. It wraps around the sleeping bodies in their futons. It moves through the leaves of the trees and over the surface of the water. It carries the scent of a flower from one garden to another. It carries the sound of a settling roof from one house to the ears of the night. To experience the night air is to experience the unity of the place, to understand that the house, the garden, the path, and the mountain are not separate things, but parts of a single, immense, and deeply peaceful entity. You stand on the bridge for a long time, feeling the cool, clean air wash over you, content to be a still point in the slow, silent breathing of the sleeping world. The cold, pure air of the valley fills your lungs, and as you exhale, something more than just a plume of white vapor seems to leave you. The intense focus on the physical world, the stones, the air, the water softens. Your awareness turns inward, but it does not find your own thoughts. Instead, it finds echoes. Standing in the profound stillness, you become a listening device not for sounds, but for memories. The village, having revealed its physical form, now begins to share its soul. You are no longer just an observer of a place. You are a quiet witness to the countless ordinary lives that were lived here, lives that are now as much a part of the landscape as the ancient pines and the moss-covered stones. These are not memories of great events, of samurai battles or noble decrees. There are no plaques here, no statues. The history that lives in this air is quieter, softer, and far more profound. It is the history of the everyday, the endless, gentle cycle of waking, working, eating, and sleeping. It is the memory of ordinary people, their names long forgotten, whose faithful repetition of simple tasks created the deep, resonant peace that you now feel. You look at the path beneath your feet, worn smooth and slightly concave in the middle. You are not the first to walk here in the dead of night. Your single footstep is just the latest in a procession that stretches back 1,000 years. You can almost feel the phantom pressure of other feet. The hurried steps of a midwife, her face lit by a bobbing paper lantern, rushing toward a new life. The slow, heavy tread of a farmer returning from a distant field long after sunset, his body aching with a satisfying weariness. The light, skipping steps of children, playing games in the twilight, their laughter a ghost on the breeze. The solemn, measured walk of a funeral procession, carrying a loved one to the small cemetery on the hill. These feet, shod in straw sandals and wooden geta, or bare against the cool earth, have packed this soil, have given this path its gentle, meandering shape. You are walking in their footsteps, and for a moment, the distinction between your time and theirs dissolves. You lean against the cool wooden wall of a sleeping house. You close your eyes. The wood is not just wood. It is a library of stored sensations. It remembers the small, repeated impacts of daily life. It remembers the soft thud of a child's head, nodding off during a bedtime story. It remembers the pressure of a back, leaning against it to catch a moment of rest in the afternoon sun. It remembers the vibrations of voices, of arguments and reconciliations, of lullabies hummed low, of quiet conversations that happened in the room just on the other side of this wall. The hands that built this house, that planed these boards and fitted these joints, are long gone. But their care, their intention, their touch that remains, a silent, structural integrity that has weathered centuries of storms. Your thoughts drift to the lives lived within these walls. You imagine the first light of dawn, cold and gray, filtering through the paper shoshi. A woman rises, her movements slow and practiced in the pre-dawn chill. The scratch of a match, the small, hopeful flare of a flame, the careful tending of the fire in the kamado. The smell of rice steaming, a comforting, domestic cloud that fills the small house. These were the first sounds and smells of 10,000 mornings, a ritual of nourishment that began each day. You think of the work, the men and women in the fields, their bodies bent in a graceful, rhythmic arc as they planted the rice seedlings in the spring, the water cold around their ankles. The blacksmith in his smoky forge, the ringing clang of his hammer on hot metal, a steady, percussive heartbeat at the village's edge. The weaver at her loom, the shuttle flying back and forth with a rhythmic plaque thump, transforming simple thread into fabric. It was not work born of ambition, but of necessity, of season, of a deep and abiding connection to the materials of their world. Their labor was a form of meditation, a slow conversation with wood and iron and earth and silk. You look toward the water channel, its voice the only constant sound. For them, this was not just a picturesque feature. It was life. It was the water for their tea, for washing their rice, for cleaning their homes. You can almost see the phantom shapes of women kneeling at its edge, their hands red with cold as they scrub radishes, their talk a low murmur beneath the gurgle of the stream. You can almost hear the splash of children, damming a small section on a hot summer day. This water flowed through their lives as surely as it flowed through the village. It was their constant, cleansing, life-giving companion, and in the evenings the return to these small, glowing homes. The family gathered around the low table, the room filled with the steam from a communal pot of soup. The faces are indistinct, lost to time, but the feeling is not. The feeling is of safety, of a day's labor completed, of a small, warm circle of light and love against the vast, encroaching darkness. There were no televisions, no distractions. There was only the food, the tea, and the quiet company of one another. The stories told were not new, but the old, familiar folk tales, their telling and retelling a way of weaving the generations together. As you stand there, wrapped in the cold night air, you are not just remembering these lives, you are feeling them. The silence is not empty. It is pregnant with their finished conversations. The darkness is not vacant. It is filled with their peaceful, dreamless sleep. The cool stone of the lantern feels as if it still holds the faint warmth of the hand that lit its candle every evening. The smooth, worn wood of the bridge handrail feels as if it remembers the grip of 1,000 hands that steadied themselves as they crossed. These were lives of profound simplicity, but not of ignorance. They knew the names of every star, the meaning of every change in the wind's direction, the medicinal properties of every herb on the hillside. Their knowledge was deep, practical, and woven into the fabric of their place. They did not seek to conquer nature, but to live in harmony with it, to understand its rhythms, and to align their own lives accordingly. Their days were not measured by clocks, but by the movement of the sun, the cycle of the moon, and the slow, inexorable turning of the seasons. The peace you feel in this village is their legacy. It is the cumulative effect of countless lives lived with patience, with mindfulness, and with a quiet acceptance of the world as it is. They did not leave behind great monuments, but they left behind this stillness. They cultivated this peace as carefully as they cultivated their fields. It grew slowly over centuries from their repeated acts of care, their quiet labor, their deep, unspoken understanding of what it means to belong to a place. You are a fleeting visitor, a ghost from a frantic future, but in this moment you are connected to them. Their blood may not be in your veins, but their peace is in your breath. You are breathing the same air they breathed, looking at the same unchanging moon. The gentle, ordinary lives that were lived here have not vanished. They have simply soaked into the earth, into the wood, into the very air, becoming the gentle, enduring spirit of the quiet village. The echoes of forgotten lives settle back into the wood and earth, and you are left alone again, suspended in the vast, quiet expanse of the night. But you are not the same person who first stepped onto this path. The frantic internal clock that governs the modern world, the one that constantly measures, divides, and hurries, has wound down. It has stopped. Its silence is as profound as the silence of the village itself. Here in this place, time is not a commodity to be spent or saved. It is an ocean to be floated in, and you have surrendered to its slow, deep currents. Hours pass. You know this not because you have a watch, for a watch would be a meaningless, frantic little machine in this context. You know it because the stars have moved. The great, luminous river of the Milky Way, which had been a brilliant slash directly overhead, has wheeled slowly westward. A constellation you had noticed earlier, framed perfectly between two rooftops, has now drifted out of that frame, replaced by a different, sparser patch of stars. The movement is so slow, so majestic, that you cannot perceive it happening. You only know that it has happened. It is a clock with a single hand that takes an entire night to move a few inches, and its silent, inexorable passage is a lesson in humility. The moon, which had been a brilliant silver coin, has also begun its descent. Its light no longer falls vertically, but at an angle, stretching the shadows of the houses into long, dark fingers that reach across the path. The corner of a stone wall that was previously bathed in its cool light is now a sharp black wedge of darkness. The world's geometry is slowly, silently shifting. These are the only events, the slow crawl of shadows, the majestic drift of ancient light. They are events of such magnitude and slowness that they make all human activity seem like a brief, frantic buzzing. You have ceased to be a traveler. You are no longer walking with a sense of purpose, of moving from one point of interest to the next. Your movement, if it happens at all, is a slow, aimless drift. You might stand in one spot for what an outside observer would call an hour, simply watching a single star-reflecting puddle of water. You might take 5 steps and then stop again, captivated by the new arrangement of silhouettes and shadows your change in perspective has created. The desire to get somewhere has vanished because you have realized there is nowhere to get to. You are already there. You are in the heart of the long, slow, continuous now. As the night deepens, a new quality of cold emerges. It is not the simple chill of evening, but a crystalline, absolute cold that carries the hint of frost. You can feel it in the stones under your hands, a deep, resonant cold that seems to have been stored there for centuries. You can taste it in the air, a sharpness that makes your teeth ache slightly. On the dark, glossy leaves of a camellia bush, you notice a fine white tracery beginning to form around the edges, the first delicate touch of frost. It is another of the night's slow, silent events. Nature is painting with ice, and its work is meticulous, unhurried. The sounds, too, mark the passage of time by their very unchanging nature. The gurgle of the water in the channel is the night's metronome. It does not speed up. It does not slow down. It is a constant, a liquid anchor in a world of slow, subtle flux. You listen to it for so long that it ceases to be a sound. It becomes a part of the silence, the audible texture of the quiet itself. Your own heartbeat has slowed to match its steady, unhurried rhythm. Thoughts still arise in your mind, but they are different now. They are no longer sharp, narrative, or purposeful. They are like clouds drifting through a vast, empty sky. A memory of your own life might appear a face, a room, a line of conversation, but it has no emotional charge. It is a detached image that floats by and dissolves without a trace. Your own life, with its deadlines and appointments, feels like a story you read once in a book about a character in a very great hurry for reasons you can no longer recall. The urgency is gone. The plot has been forgotten. You realize that you are experiencing time as the village does. This is time not as a line, but as a volume. It is a deep, still pool. An hour is not a segment to be filled, but a depth to be sunk into. This is how a mountain experiences time, or an ancient tree. It is a state of being, not a process of becoming. Nothing needs to happen, because everything has already happened and will happen again. The sun will rise, the people will work, the night will fall, the frost will form, and it will melt. The water will flow, the stars will turn. This great, slow, gentle cycle is the only truth. To be caught in it, To feel it turning without resistance is to be at peace. The passage of time is so slow that it feels like stillness. The changes are so subtle they can only be noticed in retrospect. The air is colder now than it was. The shadows are longer. The moon is lower. But at no single point did you feel the change happening. The night does not unfold in a series of moments, but in a single, continuous, and seamless transformation. You are not a person in the village. You are a moment of the village. Your consciousness has spread out, merging with the cold stones, the dark wood, and the silent, turning sky. There is no boredom here. Boredom is the desire for something to happen, for a change of state. Here, there is no desire. There is only a quiet, alert, and deeply restful state of observation. To watch a shadow move a single inch over the course of an hour is not boring. It is a profound meditation on the nature of light and time. To hear no new sounds is not a deprivation. It is a confirmation of the world's deep, unshakable peace. The night continues calmly, eternally. It does not promise a dawn. It does not hint at an ending. It simply is. And you are simply in it. The minutes and hours have bled into one another, forming a single, undifferentiated continuum of quiet. You have forgotten when you arrived. You have no thought of when you might leave. You exist like the stones and the stars, in a state of simple, patient, and timeless presence. The slow, deep, dreamless passage of time is the final lullaby, the one that quiets not just the body, but the mind's restless, ceaseless need for something to be next. There is nothing next. There is only this, and it is enough. The slow, majestic turning of the cosmos has carried you to a place beyond time. The moon, your faithful companion for hours, has finally slipped below the dark, jagged line of the western hills. Its departure is not an event you witness, but a finality you feel. The soft, silvery light that gave the world its gentle contours is gone. The shadows it cast, which had been your slow-moving clock, have vanished. They have not been replaced by other shadows. They have merged into a single, seamless, and profound darkness. You are now in the deepest part of the night, the nadir, the still point. This is a new dimension of quiet. The earlier silence was a tapestry of faint, distant sounds. This is the void from which all sound is born, and to which it has all returned. The last high hum of the insect chorus has faded completely. The water in the channel, which has been a constant murmur, now seems to have lowered its voice, its gurgle a deeper, slower, more private sound, as if it is speaking only to itself. The air is so absolutely still that it feels solid, a block of clear, cold glass. The idea of a breeze is a memory from another lifetime. The darkness is absolute, but it is not empty. After your eyes adjust, you realize it is filled with a faint ambient luminescence that seems to emanate from no source. It is the collected light of 1 billion distant stars, filtered through the atmosphere and diffused into a soft, uniform glow that gives the world the quality of an old, underexposed photograph. You cannot see details, the grain of wood, the texture of stone, but you can perceive forms. The hulking, geometric shape of a roof, the darker, vertical line of a tree trunk, the pale, horizontal ribbon of the path. The world has been reduced to its essential, eternal shapes. It is a landscape of pure form, stripped of all ornament. And this darkness is safe. It is not the frightening, disorienting blackness of a cellar. It is the deep, warm, enclosing darkness of a womb. It is a blanket heavy and soft, that has been tucked in around the edges of the world. It quiets the eyes, stops their constant, anxious search for information. In this gentle, profound gloom, there is nothing to see, and therefore nothing to want, nothing to fear. Your sense of sight, so dominant in the daylight world, finally rests. It closes its own eyes, and you are left to experience the world through your other senses, which are now preternaturally sharp. The cold is now at its zenith. It is a dry, brittle, crystalline cold. You feel it on your skin, but you also feel it in your bones, a deep, resonant chill that seems to have seeped up from the very core of the sleeping earth. The frost is no longer forming. It is a finished masterpiece. Every surface is coated in a delicate, intricate lacework of ice crystals. The tiles on the roofs, the stones in the walls, the last few dead leaves on the branches, all of it sparkles with a faint, captured starlight. You reach out and touch a fence post. The wood is covered in a fuzzy, velvet layer of frost that is shockingly cold and instantly melts under the heat of your fingertip, leaving a dark, wet spot. The world is holding its breath, and that breath has frozen into a beautiful, temporary jewel. In this absolute silence, you become the only source of sound. Your own heartbeat, which you can normally never hear, is now a slow, steady, muffled thump-thump in your chest and in your ears. It is the only drumbeat in a silent world. You take a breath, and the sound of the cold air entering your lungs is a soft, rushing hiss. You hold it. The world holds it with you. You exhale, and the sigh of your own breath is a momentous event. You are a living engine in a world that has turned itself off. The feeling is one of awesome, profound solitude, but not loneliness. You are the sole witness to this moment of absolute peace. You are the consciousness of the sleeping village. Time has completely stopped. The stars are fixed in the sky. The shadows are gone. The world is a single frozen, perfect tableau. There is no past, no future. There is only this eternal, unchanging, and deeply peaceful is. The very concept of next has dissolved. There is nothing to wait for. There is nowhere to go. This moment is complete in and of itself. It is the bottom of the great wave, the pause at the end of the long exhalation before the next inhalation begins. It is the sacred gap between the notes, the space that gives the music its meaning. You stand in the center of the small, open square, and you close your eyes. With your sight gone, the feeling of the world's stillness intensifies. You can feel it as a physical pressure on your skin. You can feel the immense, silent weight of the mountain behind you, and the vast, flat emptiness of the fields before you. You can feel the hundreds of sleeping bodies in the houses around you, their collective dreams a silent, invisible cloud. You are a still point in a still world, a tiny, warm heart at the center of a great, cold, and beautiful peace. This is the essence of the night, its deepest secret. It is not an ending. It is a purification. It is the moment when all the noise, all the frantic energy, all the complications of the day are washed away, leaving only what is simple, true, and enduring. The earth, the stones, the wood, the sky, the slow, deep rhythm of life and rest. To be awake now is to be privy to a profound secret, to feel the very pulse of the planet as it rests in the deep, dark, silent vacuum of space. You feel a sense of profound gratitude. Gratitude for the silence, for the darkness, for the cold. Gratitude for the safety of this place, a safety built by generations of quiet, ordinary lives. The peace that you feel is not your own. You are borrowing it. It is the accumulated peace of 1,000 years, and in this deepest moment of the night, it is offered to you freely and completely. You open your eyes, nothing has changed. The world is still frozen in its perfect, silent, starlit beauty. And you know, with a certainty that goes deeper than thought, that you will carry this moment, this deep and absolute peace within you long after the sun has risen. The deepest part of the night does not end with a sudden event. There is no bell, no bird call, no distant rooster's crow to mark a change. The transition is far more subtle, a slow, imperceptible dilution of the absolute. The perfect, crystalline black of the sky begins to soften, almost invisibly, at its eastern edge. It is not a color yet. It is the faintest possible lessening of darkness, a shift from pure black to a deep, resonant indigo. You would not notice it if you were not paying attention with your entire being, but you are. You have been so immersed in the darkness that you can feel its slightest retreat. This is not dawn. Dawn is an event, a promise of the sun. This is something far more gentle. It is simply the end of the absolute night. The great, slow wheel has begun its upward turn, but its movement is still so infinitesimal as to be almost imperceptible. The stars in the east begin to lose their hard, diamond-like brilliance. They seem to grow softer, fuzzier, as if the deep velvet of the sky is slowly absorbing them. With this faint, almost imaginary lightning comes a subtle shift in the air. The intense, brittle cold begins to lose its sharpest edge. It is still deeply cold, but a new quality is entering the atmosphere, a faint, almost imperceptible hint of moisture. The deep frost that coats every surface does not melt, but it seems to lose its dry, sparkling quality. It becomes softer, heavier, as if preparing for its eventual dissolution. And with the change in the air, sound begins to return to the world, but it returns from an immense distance. You become aware of a low, deep, almost subliminal hum. It is not a sound you can place. It might be the sound of the wind in the highest altitudes, miles above the sleeping valley. It might be the sound of the planet itself turning in space. It is the first faint vibration of the waking world, and it is so far away that it feels more like a memory of sound than a present reality. You are still standing in the center of the quiet village. Nothing around you has changed. The houses are still dark, the paths are still empty. But the spell of the absolute frozen moment has been broken. Time, which had stopped completely, has begun to flow again. Its movement is like that of a vast, deep river, a current so broad and slow that you can barely feel it, but you know it is moving. Your own body feels this shift. The intense, alert stillness that held you for hours begins to dissolve. A deep physical tiredness which had been held at bay by the night's magic begins to seep into your bones. Your muscles ache with a gentle, satisfying weariness. The desire for your own rest, for the warmth of a futon, and the oblivion of sleep begins to whisper at the edge of your consciousness. You do not fight it. You do not try to hold on to the peak experience of the deep night. You understand that its purpose was not to be a permanent state, but a cleansing, a reset. You have been washed clean, and now you are being gently released. You begin to walk your footsteps slow and heavy. There is no destination. You are not walking to anywhere. You are simply moving with the slow, new current of time. Your walk is a form of gentle fading, a slow withdrawal from the heart of the experience. The path leads you back toward the edge of the village, the same way you came in, what feels like a lifetime ago. The stone lantern is a dark, solid shape. The water in the basin is a sheet of dark gray, no longer reflecting stars. The gurgle of the water channel sounds the same, but you hear it differently now. It is no longer a lonely voice in the silence, but the first note in a symphony that is slowly beginning to assemble itself. You do not look back. There is no need. The village is not a place you are leaving. It is a state of being that you have internalized. The peace is not behind you. It is within you. The silence is not in the empty streets. It is in the quieted spaces of your own mind. As you reach the boundary where the packed earth meets the asphalt, you pause. The transition is no longer a momentous step. It is just a change of surface. You can feel the hard, unyielding nature of the modern road under your feet, a stark contrast to the firm but gentle give of the village path. The eastern sky is now a soft, deep blue. The brightest stars have vanished. From a house far behind you, a single muffled cough, a sound of real human life. From the fields, the first tentative three-note call of a single bird. It is not a song, but a question asked of the fading darkness. This is not the end of the story. There is no conclusion, no wrap-up, no neat summary of what has been learned. The experience does not end because it was not a narrative. It was a state of being. The village simply remains. It continues its slow, gentle cycle, unconcerned with your presence or your departure. The houses will stand. The water will flow. The night will fall again. You do not fade to black. You do not walk off into the sunrise. The story has no ending because its only purpose was to create a space for rest, for sleep, for the quiet dissolution of the anxious mind. And now that purpose is fulfilled. The gentle flow of the experience simply slows, softens, and merges with the listener's own drift into sleep. The place remains. The silence remains. The path is there. The stones are cold. The air is still. It all exists, waiting patiently, offering no drama, no excitement, no conclusion. It offers only a gentle, open-ended peace, allowing your own journey into sleep or into the new day to continue undisturbed.